10 and 12 days, Ken. You're going to
10
be a tired
games
little
in
pup.
12 days. All right. Good luck on the sleep schedule. Ken, happy almost opening World Baseball Classic day. How you doing?
I'm doing well, guys. And by the way, 10 games in 12 days, bring it on.
Hey, you get 2 days off, Ken. What are you complaining about?
I'll be writing too, AJ. How about that?
Oh, writing. I'm sorry. Your fingers might get tired from typing on your computer.
Hey, Ken, are you going to watch this first game?
It's not like sitting behind the plate. I will grant you that.
Ken, you watching this first game, Netherlands and Cuba at 11 o'clock Eastern time? I've been trying to say AJ's going to go live and give commentary on this thing on social media, and AJ's like, nah, I'll be sleeping.
Well, I heard him say that, and I am quite confident that he is not lying about that, but I am going to check out the game. I'm interested to see Cuba play because, as you guys were talking about, they have a number of major leaguers who were willing to play for them this go around. It's always been a tricky political thing with a lot of the guys. A lot of the players do not want to play for Cuba. They left Cuba for a reason, and obviously that is going to be a team to watch.
Where's Yoenis Cespedes, by the way? I see Yoenis, different guy named Yoenis, but I was looking. Yoenis Cespedes, who I haven't seen in a hot minute. I'm just curious to see what he looks like. I mean, he disappeared for a few years, Ken.
You know what, guys? I have something to tell you about Cespedes that surprised me when I heard it for the first time the other day. I was talking to Bob Melvin, the manager of the Padres. He used to be the manager of the A's. And he told me Cespedes was one of his all-time favorite players. He loved having him. They had a great relationship. And I don't know, I never perceived Cespedes as being that kind of guy. Ichiro is one of Melvin's other favorites, going back to their days in Seattle together. But Cespedes, he is always an intriguing figure. And yes, Scott, I'm with you. I'm interested to see him too.
I will be watching. I go to sleep late.
I've heard that, though, from people that played with Cespedes. They said he was amazing as a teammate. Like,
really?
Great in the clubhouse, great off the field, funny as heck, like just like to have a good time. Now, did he make some questionable decisions, like as far as like, whenever he broke his ankle with the Mets and doing some other crazy stuff? Yeah, but they said when he was there and he was healthy, he was one of the best.
Heard the same thing. And the guy was the catalyst for that Oakland team, and they traded him away, and that team faded in 2014. And I think he was maybe an underrated player, but I would love to see him. Like you, Bronny.
Hey, Ken, before we get into some other news around the league, being that Kratzy just spoke, I know this topic is near and dear to your heart. Eric Kratz got into maybe I don't know if it was his first, but it was definitely his biggest Twitter beef with the Twitter sphere. So, Kratzy, do you want to tell the story to Ken? And he can give you some advice too, because Ken deals with his 1 billion Twitter followers, whatever. So go ahead, Kratzy. He'll give you a little therapeutic advice.
This is small potatoes for you here. So, my 12 teen followers that I have, but I deflected some of what the heat was getting on Hicksy, my guy, trying to make left field for the Yankees. He dropped the ball, and about 9 seconds later, he picked it up, and O'Neal Cruz, which doesn't have an apostrophe on it, my phone accidentally auto-corrected to O'Neal. It's near St. Patty's Day. It's not my fault. But 9 seconds later, he was just rounding first base, and all I said was great hustle, and I got eviscerated.
Twitter is a very interesting place, Eric, and I don't know that I can give you any advice. If you never say anything remotely controversial, then you'll never have a problem. But if you dare criticize a player on a fan's favorite team, it's coming back at you. And I often just ignore it. I generally do not respond at all to people because it's kind of out of control. And the one thing I've noticed always, and you guys know this too from playing, it's a different thing with me, but you can recall this kind of thing too. You might hear from fans in the stands, right? They might be yelling at you, booing you, whatever. They meet you. Hey, great to meet you. I'm such a fan. And I hear that all the time. I see on Twitter all these people giving me a bunch of grief. And then whenever I meet fans, oh, I love you. I love everything. Yeah, right, whatever. So probably the best thing is not to take Twitter all that seriously.
Okay, I appreciate that. I won't take it seriously. Fortunately, I was able to sleep last night, but I appreciate
And
the.
let's face it, Eric, the reality is he didn't hustle, right? So what you said was completely true. People don't like it. Too bad.
That's
I
the
just
thing.
didn't. I didn't see there was going to be that much backlash from a guy who clearly. It's not like it was my opinion. He just didn't get the second, and so I
No,
enjoyed it. I
Kratzy, you
enjoyed it.
should do that. Kratzy, you're an analyst. I want to hear your opinion on the play. Hey, if I'm with O'Neal Cruz on his team, you're a veteran guy that's been around the league, you might be like, hey, let's run it out, which actually gets me to the first topic with Ken, because I
Hold on,
just
hold
read.
on. No,
No, this is.
Ken, what
You're,
Eric's
you're
really mad
crushing
about
my
is they brought up
transition.
his .1 WAR, minus .1 WAR. That's what really got Eric mad. That's what got him, was the negative WAR. And he's like, well, defending it with pitching. I mean, that's what
I'll tell
really
you
got
what,
him.
AJ, you know this too. How many fans out there, people on Twitter trolling Eric, would like to have played in the big leagues and had a whatever it is, negative .1 WAR?
Everyone.
How many years did you play, Eric? How many years were you in the big leagues?
Parts of 11.
All right, I would think the average person watching this, the average person in the stands, the average person, period, would have given a lot to play 11 parts of 11 years in the major leagues. That's the thing. I mean, what you guys have accomplished just by getting there, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's why.
And I'm
I
not just
commented
saying that; it's the
because-
truth.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and that's why I commented, because there's no like. I also commented on it too. I said, "Did somebody hurt?" Somebody said, "Oh, did it hurt your feelings?" I said, "I played in the minor leagues long enough. I have no feelings. Baseball took them from me." So it is really tough to hurt my feelings, but we'll try on this show. We will definitely try.
Yeah, this was a good therapy session. I needed this. Okay, so Kratzy, as he should, saying, hey, I'd like to see O'Neal Cruz run it out. I know it's spring training, but that ball was in the air and then dropped for a million seconds, and O'Neal was still there. Getting me to Ken's article put up on The Athletic this morning. I believe you're at Angels camp. You've got a few notes from there, including Ohtani. But one of the things that stood out to me was Phil Nevin saying, like, he's never got to worry about the hustle. Like, Ohtani is booking it to first. Trout is always booking it to first and around the bases. So kind of the opposite of what we saw there.
Well, two things on this, and it goes back to what we were just discussing with Eric. So I posted that article, and what it was regarding Ohtani were two things that I had not heard much about. And one was Nevin saying he's the smartest player he's ever been around. And I said, whoa, Phil, you had a long playing career. You've been a coach, you've been a manager. That can't be. Give me some comps to him from your career of guys who were really smart. And he mentioned two Hall of Famers. Jeff Bagwell was one, Tony Gwynn was the other. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But, and I'll get to the home to first stuff. The first comment on the article this morning when I look at it was, Ken, thanks a lot. Tell me something I don't know about Ohtani. That was really enlightening. That guy being sarcastic. Here we go. I didn't respond. Now, on Ohtani's speed, this is the other thing that Nevin pointed out that was really interesting. He said, you look it up. Home to first, he's the fastest guy in the league. Now, Ohtani isn't quite the fastest in terms of pure speed necessarily. There are guys who don't play as much who might be a little faster, but I believe the cutoff was 1,000 competitive runs in a season, something like that. Competitive runs to first base. I believe he was first in 2021 and second last year, something like that, in average time home to first. That's incredible, considering one, the guy's a power hitter, and two, he is also a pitcher. So it's something that about Ohtani, when you watch him go home to first, a man that big, doing that and flying the way he does and running as hard as he does, going back to the O'Neal Cruz situation, though it was only spring training, it's pretty impressive.
Ken, first of all, it takes him like 4 steps to get to first base, so he should be the fastest one. I mean, his steps are like 5 yards long every time. I mean, it's incredible. And Dino Ebel, when I did a game, I don't know if you were there with Fox or not, but he always said, who's the third base coach for the Angels, or he was, I'm not sure if he's still there, but he's the best athlete he's ever seen. And Dino Ebel has coached for a lot of teams. I think he's with the Dodgers now, but he was like, he's the best athlete I've ever seen on a baseball field. And again, it doesn't surprise me, but it's always a good thing on a team when your best players, Trout, Ohtani, are running the hardest, because then it doesn't give the other guys a reason to say, well, Mike Trout's not running. Well, yes, he is. He's busting his tail down there. So I love to hear these kind of things.
Right, and Nevin made the point that Trout does exactly the same thing, just as you said, AJ. But the one thing I wasn't completely aware of was this field awareness, the savvy that Ohtani has. Basically, Nevin said that he's aware of every opponent, everyone he's ever faced, everyone on the other team. He knows the players. He knows what's going on. He will go to Nevin and suggest certain things, and Nevin will say, whoa, I hadn't thought of that. So you put the entire package together, the athleticism, the effort, the work ethic, and the smarts. Well, that's why he's Shohei Ohtani.
That's
Now,
why
if
he's
we
going to
go-
get about $700 million on the free agent
Yeah,
market.
exactly. As he should. He deserves it. He's two players in one. Go ahead, Kratzy.
No, I won't make you. I won't make you negotiate Ohtani's contract here quite yet. We'll wait till maybe April when you negotiate Ohtani's next contract. But dive into the Giants offseason. Everybody's going to talk about who they missed out on. I want to hear what you have to say of who they got, because I think there's some intriguing players in there. But I first want to hear who you have to say, and do you think they are better than the team they were last year?
Well, the focus, obviously, Eric, has been on the two guys they didn't get, Aaron Judge, Carlos Correa, and that's understandable. They're two of the best players in the game. But they did sign 7 free agents for almost $200 million. Now, one of them was Jock Peterson on a qualifying offer, but they also brought in Michael Conforto and Mitch Haniger for the rotation, Sean Manaea and Ross Stripling, and then in the bullpen, Taylor Rogers. So that's a pretty impressive haul. And I forgot Luke Jackson. He was in that mix as well in the bullpen. They feel that their roster, Gabe Kapler actually told me this, is the best it's been at this point since Kapler got there. Now I said, whoa. 2021, you won 107 games. And his point was we're deeper. And they feel also that their young talent is better than it's been in recent years. They've got some guys coming. They even like their Rule 5 pick, the catcher. So I don't know how confident they actually should be. Are they the Padres? No. Are they the Dodgers? No. But they feel their rotation in particular is incredibly deep. They've got the 5 starters. They've got guys behind them, including the prospect Kyle Harrison. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out for them. The one flaw that they have is defense, and they didn't really address that. And that, of course, could be a fatal flaw for a team. But at the same time, if you guys remember last year, just right at this time, what were guys like me writing about? The Phillies defense stinks. They're going to be terrible because of it. Even with all the slugging, it's going to be a problem. It was a problem at times, but it also got better. And they did some different things, brought in some different players. Bryson Stott got in the mix. And obviously, they had a pretty good year.
Ken, I like their rotation. I don't love it. The Rodon loss, I think, is going to be huge. He was so good for them last year. I like generally what they did, getting the quantity. Definitely was quantity over quality. Here's the problem I have when I talk to Giants fans. They missed out on the two guys you just mentioned, right? They've went after Bryce Harper in the past. They've went after Giancarlo Stanton in the past. I like having the depth and making sure you have a really solidly stacked roster like this. But, I mean, I'm in Orlando now most of the time here with AJ, and the Tampa Bay Rays have more of a franchise player than the San Francisco Giants do, and say a Wander Franco, even though he really is early on in his career. I think is it fair to say a franchise player problem? You don't need it to be a champion, but San Francisco is such a big, strong market. I think they feel a little bit, I don't want to say embarrassed, but they're like, where are our superstars that we can talk about for the next 5 to 10 years, especially when they're looking over at a team like the Dodgers and a team like the Padres now? That's the one thing. I'm not saying that it definitely correlates into wins, but do you think that it's something that's bugging the San Francisco Giants organization, or does Farhan Zaidi and company just not care about that and they're just looking at piling up wins?
Scott, that observation is entirely fair. Let's face it. They know it. They went after Judge. They went after Correa, and their intention in both cases, they had an agreement with Correa, was to bring in that type of player. They are missing somewhat of an identity. They need a face of the franchise. Since Buster Posey left, they haven't had that guy. And even Buster, great player, potential Hall of Famer, he was one guy, right? So it is something they tried to address this offseason. They didn't address it. The point of what they're saying is they still think their team will be very competitive. And I can see scenarios where that indeed will be the case. I'm with you on Rodon. I agree the rotation is mostly beyond Webb, twos and threes and fours, really. But at the same time, it is about winning. And in 2021, yes, they had Posey and they had Brandon Crawford, who, of course, has been there forever, and Brandon Belt. But they weren't really a star-laden team then. And they did it in a way that was a little bit different. So left with what they have, and what they have they like, they're going to have to go about it this way. But I would expect that they will play for Ohtani in the offseason like everyone else, and they're going to keep trying for superstars. It just hasn't lined up for them yet.
Ken, on the same Giants thing, I don't feel like they did enough. Again, it's kind of off of what Scott said, but Jock Peterson, franchise tag, right? Got or whatever they call it, the franchise
qualifying
offer.
Yeah.
Sorry, he's basically a platoon guy, right? They gave him a ton of money. Sean Manaea can't pitch against the Dodgers. I mean, he's got like a 15 ERA in his career against the Dodgers. The Padres didn't even put him on the playoff roster, I don't think, last year because of that. They didn't want him to have to come into a game and start. Conforto hasn't played in 2 years. Haniger's been good, but he's been hurt a lot. Now, I know this is a Gabe Kapler type team where he likes to mix and match, and 2 years ago they were the best at it probably I've ever seen, but Brandon Crawford is old now, had a really hard time last year. I mean, is there enough there for them to compete with the Dodgers and Padres? I know of course they're going to say we're the Giants, but I just don't know there's enough there.
Vegas doesn't think so. They've got them for like 78 wins.
Yeah, I just don't see it. I mean, I appreciate the moves they made, but I don't know. Prove me wrong, Ken. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Guys, I'm acting like, or you're putting me in a position where I should be like the Giants PR person.
You are.
But I'm just relaying or conveying, and when I did this in what I wrote today, where they feel they are. And listen, it's spring training, guys. You have to filter everything knowing that even the lowliest teams are optimistic. But what I'm saying is they see scenarios where they can be competitive and really competitive. And keep in mind, we have 3 wild cards now. Do I see them getting one? No, it's going to take a lot of things to go right and perhaps some work at the deadline as well. But I think what a lot of people, including myself, really failed to realize is that they did a number of things around the edges. Now, they're not sexy things. And Manaea, those questions that, AJ, you just raised are entirely fair. His velocity is up this spring, which is kind of intriguing. But if they get some of these kids that they're talking about into the mix throughout the season and some things go right with some of their others, Stripling's going to get a good chance here to be a full-time starter. Logan Webb is really good. I can see where it will be a positive season for them, a good season. But all the things you guys are saying, entirely fair. No superstar, no massive slugger, and you lose Carlos Rodon, I don't care who you bring in, you're losing something. This guy is one of the best pitchers in the game. So that combined with the defensive questions, these are all legitimate things, especially now with the shift restrictions, less than athletic middle infield. Brandon Crawford, I love him, not what he used to be in the field defensively. There's no question about that. So, yeah, we'll see what happens, but that's what they are saying. That's how they feel about where they stand.
Yeah, you mentioned they have 3s in that rotation. To me, they're a 3 at best in the division right now. They're a 3, maybe even a 4 if Arizona makes noise.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple
we
other
would
things.
all agree with that. And Arizona might make noise. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. A couple other things from the article. One fun one, and then AJ is going to hit you on Jacob deGrom. But did you know the Jake Cronenworth story? So we read your article this morning, and you said Jake. Go. Actually, you're the troll, so go get it.
I'm the troll. I'm the Twitter troll now.
Tell him.
Yeah. So did you know that Jake, who you wrote about, is no longer Jake? He's Jacob, and he's been Jacob his whole life.
Oh.
And
you know what?
So here it is,
Ken. I did know this. I should change that. I will change that as soon as we're off.
Okay.
Hey, AJ's your editor now.
Because Ken, here's the thing. Like I remember we did a Rockies Brewers series in the playoffs one year, and we were calling Nolan Arenado, everyone was saying Nolan Arenado, and the Rockies PR guy kept saying it's Arenado, like the pirate. So every time I do a Cardinals game, I make sure I'm like Nolan Arenado. So now when I do a Padres game, I'm going to have to just be like Jacob Cronenworth, right? No more Crone Zone, no more whatever, Orsillo.
No, you can still do
Well, it can
Crone
be
Zone.
Crone Zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's just because Orsillo wants to get Jumbo Jacks from Jack in the Box, and they do those commercials together.
No, but what's crazy to me is that
Nobody knew, nobody asked.
The league just said Jake, and I'm actually, well, depending on what round he was drafted, and I do most of the draft, so I probably said his name. They feed me the name that I'm supposed to say. It probably said Jake Cronenworth, but he goes by Jacob. Machado was calling him Jacob. They're like, why are you calling him Jacob? He's like, he is Jacob. That's what everyone calls him except for the damn media, because the league labeled him Jake, and then they just ran with it, which the crazy thing to me, Ken, is he's been in the league now for a bit. Like, he's got dirt in his spikes. Tell someone, hey, I'm going by Jacob now. Like, we're nice people in baseball. We would have called him Jacob for years.
Well, this member of the damned media is going to fix that article as soon as we're off. And as for Jacob, he's one of the nicest guys in the league, I would say. In a league that has a lot of nice guys, it's not kind of when I came up when the players were a little bit surlier. So I can see him not ever wanting to correct anybody and not even caring all that much about it. But thank you, AJ, for the editing advice, and I will get to it.
You're welcome, Ken. I'm here to help your life
Always
get
here to help.
easier. So,
I know
and then
you are.
also the article today, I wasn't going to get on you about that. I was trying to let Scott, I'm the troll now, the Twitter troll. You wrote about Jacob deGrom, and he wants to go to Cooperstown. And as a player, every player that I think that plays at some point is like, man, I'd love to get to Cooperstown. Now, here's the thing for me with deGrom. I faced deGrom. He was as good as anybody I ever faced. He's not a Hall of Famer for me because he hasn't pitched enough. And I know there's qualifications for that, but for him to talk about that, he just signed a 5-year deal in Texas. He needs 5 healthy, good years, and he's a little bit up there in age. So I don't see it right now. And I also, as he gets older, I don't know that he can do that.
Well, I don't see it right now either, AJ. But at the same time, it's always intriguing to me to hear a player talk like that. Because let's face it, yes, every player's goal is to make the Hall of Fame, of course. But there are very few players who are ever vocal about it because it doesn't always come off right? So Justin Verlander, from the time he was a young pitcher, has had that as a goal, and he's talked about it. And for deGrom to talk about it after the seasons that he's had, and he first mentioned this in 2021 when he was not quite in this injury mode that he has been in. He was not healthy that year, but it was at the start of that season. And at that time, it certainly looked like he could be on a Hall of Fame track. But what I'm saying is, for him to say that now, coming off what he's come off the last 2 years for sure, it's intriguing to me because the guy still has that in his head, and he still wants to do that. He wants to pitch 200 innings a season or wants to make 30-plus starts. Listen, based on the last couple of years, we all know it might be a pipe dream. But that's his mindset, and that is something he wants to accomplish. Now, strictly from a Cooperstown resume, he's not there yet. And I pointed this out in the article. Sandy Koufax, a pitcher whose career ended at 30, at a time when starting pitchers threw a lot more innings than they do today, he finished his career with 2,300 innings. And again, did not pitch after he was 30 years old. deGrom is at about 1,300, about 1,000 less. Dizzy Dean is probably the starting pitcher in the American League National League group from 1900 on who has the fewest innings, and he's at 1,900. So he's about 600 ahead of deGrom. Yes, obviously, deGrom is going to have to pitch a lot in the next 5 years to make this case for Cooperstown. If he does and he's really good, it's going to be an interesting discussion. But he knows that, and his first goal this season is to stay on the mound. And he knows how important that is, obviously, to his team, to his career, and all of that. So Texas is a fresh start for him. Not that it was going badly in New York at all, but I'm interested to see, of course, how Jacob deGrom pitches, because I don't know about you guys, how you feel, but when he pitches, to me, it's reminiscent of Pedro Martinez. It's an event, and I love it.
So Ken, so you wouldn't vote for him right now, right? You're
No.
saying, okay, good, because that makes me feel better since you didn't vote for me on the Hall of Fame ballot. and we actually had a discussion about. We had a discussion about
stating your case.
No, I'm already off the ballot. I got my 2 votes, and I knew who they were, so thank you. They know who they are. And one of them was not Ken.
AJ, there are a lot of players who I do not vote for.
Oh
A
no,
lot.
you're so politically correct, Ken. I mean, you could have wasted one of your 10 on me, got me to 3, so I could have outdone Eric Karros by
Actually,
1
what was the year? What was the year you were on the ballot?
last
When
year
was that?
or
Last year.
22, I guess. Yeah, last year when David got in.
I think
So that was last year.
I'm pretty sure I did vote for 10. Maybe
Well,
not.
you
I
could
don't
have
know.
taken
I
out
can't
like
recall.
I don't know somebody.
But here's the problem, and here's how I'll close the discussion. And I'm going to go right back to the beginning of the discussion. If I vote for AJ Pierzynski, who is a friend of mine and someone who I actually quite admired in his career, one of the most durable catchers, first of our generation, really of all time. If I had voted for him, those Twitter trolls would have had a complete meltdown. How disrespectful is it to waste a vote on AJ Pierzynski, who's never getting to the Hall of Fame? Take away Ken's ballot. I can go on and on. And that's not why I vote one way or the other, because you're going to hear it no matter who you vote for. I'm just saying, AJ, it might have caused a little bit of a stir.
So what? Who cares, Ken?
It's an underrepresented position too. Ken,
It
appreciate
is an
it.
underrepresented position.
It is. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, we'll do that another day. Max Muncy's been chilling, waiting for us. So, Ken, appreciate it. Enjoy WBC tonight. I'll try and wake up AJ at 11 o'clock this evening. We'll talk to you later this week.
Thanks, guys.